Now move on to the another concept, which is quite a new concept in a way from 11G, which is about the identity column. So instead of the sequence number that we used to, we would earlier it was like we would first create the sequence and then use the sequence dot next value in the insert statements. So that's how we used to insert the value of the sequence. But now uh, Oracle has provided, in fact, I think other relational databases also has similar kind of functionality. The syntax might be here and there, but it generates the sequence number or the identity column. It is called as identity columns for us. So we'll just look into this example. So we have three different kinds of syntaxes. So we'll cover all these three syntaxes of identity columns. So first is create table. We'll create the table. Okay. Now here the ID column, it's a number, and you can see it is generated always. So this is the one of the syntax again as identity, and it's a primary key. So what will happen because of this? So we have three different kinds of scenarios. So first is I am providing the value. What will happen here? When I'm saying generated always, it means you cannot pass any value. See, it will give the error, right? Cannot insert into a generated always identity column because Oracle will itself generate the values. You need not provide these values. Now, what happens if I am passing a null value? Let's see. Again, it's the same error, right? So you cannot pass any kind of value when I'm saying generated always. Basically, you cannot have ID column in the insert statement. Now, the third one, it will run. Okay, the one row is inserted. And if I look into this, yeah, let me insert one more row. See, it's incremented, okay, automatically. We'll look into the metadata of identity columns in the next section, but I'll cover the different types of identity columns here first. Now, moving on to the next one, like the first one was generated always. Now we have generated by default on null as identity. So what it says is it will generate by default first. Okay, suppose if I'm not passing any value, then it will generate, and even on null, okay, by default on null as identity. For null also it will generate. So I'll first create the table. We'll look into the example. It will make things simpler. So now in generated always, these two rows had or these two insert statements had failed. But in case of generated by default on null, it will work fine. Let's see. See, one row is inserted. Now I'm passing the null value. Okay, because it is generated by default on null. So either I'm passing the value, either I'm passing null. It will work. Okay, the two rows are inserted, and it will work even in this case. See, I should see three rows in the table. Let's verify. See, the first one I had passed value 10. Second one I had passed null, so it used the sequence and it started with 1. Second one, it is as good as I'm passing null or I'm not passing any value. Then it picked up the next sequence number, which was 2. So this is how the generated by default on null works. The third one is generated by default as identity. The only difference between first and second and third is it is generated by default. It is also generated by default. It will generate for the null values, the second one, this one, but it will not generate for the null values. We'll just verify this once again. Okay. Now, will this work? Yes, this will work. I can pass a value. Generated by default means I can pass a value. Will this work? No. See, you cannot insert null into because I have not put that condition of generated by default on null. Okay, either I can pass or either I don't pass the value. So in that case only it will work. If I'm passing null, then I'll get the error. Now this particular part, okay. Again, we have this. Third one works fine. Here. Okay, so we have three different kinds of syntaxes for identity column. It's very important to understand this. Generated by default on null, and then I have generated always. What happens in generated by default? No id column in insert. Sorry, it's in always. So no id column in insert statements. Simple. In generated by default, the third one that we checked, no null value for id column. The two things will work: pass non-null value or no id column in insert statements. Okay, and third one is all the three scenarios work fine. So you can basically pass null, pass non-null, or no id column in insert statements. I hope this identity column section is clear. There are three types that we need to understand. We'll dig deep into the behind working or the behind logic of the identity column in the next section. Now, if I want to find out the details of the identity column, okay, then how do I do that? So we have some views, data dictionary views. So first is the user tab calls, okay, and this is the important column where you would find the column name. So this is the dictionary view where you get the columns of all the tables, and then whether that column is an identity column or not. So that is understand from this flag. Yes. So I just run this. Okay, as you can see, we have these three tables, and for us, all the three tables had this column ID as identity column. So behind the scenes, what Oracle does is it creates a sequence. Okay, and as you can see, data default, and then this is the schema name, and this is the sequence name, and then next well. So this is how the user tab columns look. So you can identify this, but still, I want to see all the details and everything. So there is a special data dictionary view for identity columns. It is called as user tab identity calls. Okay, so here it is user tab calls. Here you just need to add identity, user tab identity calls, and the sequence data dictionary view that we already know, user underscore sequences. Okay, so here if I run this, okay, so we find all the tables here, the name of the column on which is the identity column, the sequence number which is used for that identity column, I can find it here, and all the details of that sequence is here. So you can do everything and anything that you would do with a normal sequence. So if I just take this value sequence, and if I run something like this, next 12 from dual, it should run. You can see here, right? So I'm able to fetch the values. So it's a sequence which is created by Oracle, and that is the naming convention is like this: I sequence dollar dollar, and then I think this is related to the object ID of the table, okay, or the sequence. I think. I hope this information was very useful. Uh, Thank you for watching the video. Thanks a lot, and have a good day. If you liked it, then please like the video, add some comments, and please subscribe the channel also. Thank you.